Welcome to the Ask SQL Family podcast. This is episode number 18. And our guest today is Mladen Prajdić.
Mladen is a data platform MVP from Slovenia. He has been professionally programming for over 15 years, developing different types of applications in .NET and SQL Server, ranging from standard life of business, image processing, to high performance and IoT applications. He is a regular speaker at various conferences and user group meetings. Really likes to optimize slow SQL statements, analyze performance, and find unconventional solutions to difficult SQL Server problems. In his free time, he also develops a very popular add-in for SSMS called the SSMS Tools Pack. Hello, Mladen.
Hi.
Thank you for accepting my invitation for this podcast.
You're welcome. Glad to do it.
At the beginning, could you tell me what is your name and where do you live?
So my name is Mladen Prajdić and I live in Ljubljana in Slovenia. It's a very small country south of the European Alps. And it's a beautiful country.
How many citizens are
in Slovenia?
Yeah.
There are 2 million people in Slovenia.
And in Ljubljana?
Ljubljana has about 250,000-ish, depending on what you count as Ljubljana. But it's a very small country, but you've been here more than once, so
yes.
You know about our hospitality and you know how the nature is beautiful and how the people are friendly, and
yes, true.
We try to treat you right, son.
Yes, and basically the city center looks amazing during the
winter.
December, the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with all the Christmas lights and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty romantic.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing for a living?
So basically I'm a developer. Right now I'm developing for iOS. I'm doing Swift development. But I basically specialize in databases and database development, C#, so stuff like that. I like to do performance tuning as well, on both sides of the aisle, so on database side and the application side. I do sessions about that as well. And I organize the SQL Saturday Slovenia. Well, I help organize I'm one of the organizers. I go around and give sessions around the world on different SQL Saturdays and other conferences. So yeah, it's a fun life.
Could you tell us a little bit more about tool you have created, this SMSS tool pack, and when was the first release?
Oh, wow. So the SSMS Tools Pack is basically an add-in for SSMS, and I created it in 2006 was the first version.
And at the beginning it was free version, I think.
Yeah, so the story was that I was talking on about 27th of December of 2005. I was talking to a friend in the States, and he said, it would be really nice to be able to somehow add functionality to Management Studio. And I'm like, challenge accepted. So I basically took 2 weekends and reversed engineered the steps to extend SSMS. And I wrote what he wanted, basically a CRUD generator, CRUD stored procedure generator. And
so that was the first feature, yeah?
That was the first feature, yeah. So I created that, gave him the test version, and he was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then I said, okay, this might be useful to other people as well, right? So I started developing more and more features, and the first official public version was about 6 months later. I can't remember what features there were at that time, but since then it has grown in popularity a lot. And it's free for SSMS 2008 and SSMS 2008 R2. It's still free.
Not up to 2012?
No, you have to, so 2012 and upwards requires licensing.
Okay, yeah.
Because in 2012, I said, well, this is consuming so much of my free time, because this is a project that I do in my free time still, right? It consumes so much resources and my free time that I either open source it or start charging for it, right? And I decided against open sourcing it because it was something that Microsoft hasn't supported officially. It still isn't supported officially. And I would still be the only one working on it, to be honest, at that time. So I decided to start charging for it and do proper customer support and everything. And then it just grew, and now it's grown a lot. So it's a huge.
Can you say how many customers do you have for this, or how many licenses did you sell?
Well, no. But I mean, I know, but I won't tell it.
Okay, fine.
No, but I can tell you that since I released it in 2005, I had about 1.3 million downloads.
Nice.
Yeah, since 2005.
Nice.
So this is all versions and everything. Right? So
when you started working on that, did you have any documentation how to create the add-ins to the SSMS, or did you ask Microsoft for help?
No. So basically, what I did is that there is no documentation at that time. There was no documentation at the time. There still isn't. I basically took Reflector. So this was. That wasn't Redgate's tool at the time. It was still open sourced, I think.
Yes.
Or somebody created it. I don't know. I don't remember who. But it basically showed .NET DLLs in disassembled form.
Yeah.
So I took that and just went through how SSMS works. I reverse engineered it, and I checked. I used the sysinternals tools to see what folders SSMS reads at the startup, to see where you should put some files that are recognized by the add-in model, because SSMS was built on top of Visual Studio, which supported add-ins at that time, so it would make logical sense that SSMS also does something similar. It was just completely unsupported by Microsoft. And to this day, every new version of SSMS that comes out, it breaks something from the previous version, so I have to rewrite some infrastructure code. Yeah, so
are you still using this internal tools for that, just to reverse some of the procedure, or do you have any other tools?
No, I still use the Process Monitor and Process Explorer to see where it goes.
Okay.
It's still the basic tools for this task. And of course, now I use ILSpy. This is an open source disassembler. And that's it. That's pretty much it. And it's still the same process. Go in, see what happens. This is reverse engineer. Try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, next question about MVP.
Yeah.
What do you think about the MVP those days? MVP as a program, of course.
MVP as a program. I have no issues with it, to be perfectly honest. I mean, sure, things could be better, but things could be always better, right? I mean, I think that as a group of people, we have, so I'm talking about MVPs in general, everybody has their own views how something should be run, but in the end, it's Microsoft's program. Microsoft decides how it should be run.
Yeah.
In the end. I mean, we can either go with it, go against it, or try to improve it. And I think that most people are trying to improve it in their own way. So I have no, I mean, sure, things could be better, but I have no real issues with it. I mean, it gives you great benefits because you get, I don't know what I can say that's not covered by the NDA. You get some access to people that you wouldn't get access to otherwise.
Yeah, my next question would be like, what specific benefits is important or useful for you?
For me, basically meeting people. Through the MVP program, MVP Summit, different communication channels, stuff like that, gives you the opportunity to meet people that you might not get to meet otherwise, because they're highly technical, highly knowledgeable. And in the end, it comes down to that. If you have an issue that you cannot solve, you know who to ask that can point you in the right direction of the solution. And in my opinion, that's the most important thing that you can get. Because everything you can buy licenses, you can Google stuff, but you have to know what to Google for.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Once you know what to Google for, it's easy. You have to know what to Google for.
And also you can get the answer much quicker.
Yeah. And you get the answer
from the source.
Exactly.
So last question about the MVP. When have you been nominated? When have you been awarded first time?
2010.
2010.
I've been an MVP for 8 years now. Time flies.
Yes, true.
Yeah, 2010.
What hints would you give to young people who want to start working on the market? I mean, on the IT market.
IT market or database market, or in IT market in general?
Might be
In general, we can just.
It's not as simple as it sounds. The IT market. You have to be prepared to learn constantly. I mean, technology these days is going so fast, it's developing so fast that you just can't keep up. Realistically, expecting that you can keep up with everything is impossible. So you have to find one or two things, preferably two things that you can be really good at, that you like doing, and just go do that. There's enough work in those two areas, no matter what the areas are. There's more than enough work for you, and you can always switch areas if you want.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was like C#, and so development, and SQL development. I don't do DBAing. I mean, I can do DBAing, but I don't like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Developing, excellent. Right. Also, one important thing I think that they should know is learn the basics. Right. So I see a lot of young people just jumping into the waters of IT without knowing basic stuff. Like if you're a developer, you don't know basic algorithms for things or basic data structures. And sure, you might think that's not important, but in the end, it is important because it gives you perspective on how you can solve different business problems. Because what is programming in the end? It's translating business problems into solutions via code, and that's just algorithms in a different way, right? Mm-hmm. For other kinds of IT, since I don't specialize in those, I mean, I don't have any other advice, but you have to know the basics, so you have to have a good foundation that you can build on.
Yeah. How they can reach that kind of foundation? How can they learn those things?
There's a lot of resources online. Which one you choose is completely up to you, but once you start reading into something or listening to podcasts or learning from videos from different websites or whatever the method is, you will see which ones are good, because not all are created equal, right? You have to, but you don't know which are good and which are not because you don't have enough knowledge to decide which are good or which are not. Mm-hmm. So once you get to know some stuff about the subject you choose, then you can decide, okay, this is not giving me the things I need, and you can find something better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in the end, it doesn't matter. Just type into Google the subject that interests you and start reading on the first link. That's it. And then you will find either books that are good or videos that are good. Or, I mean, if you just say, okay, I want to learn programming T-SQL, and you go grab a book, Beginning T-SQL Programming, sure, I made up the title of the book. I don't know if that exists actually, but you don't know if that book is good or not. Mm-hmm. Right? You have to have some. Sure, you will start reading it, and then after 500 pages, you will see, okay, that maybe is not that.
Yeah, but probably book, at the beginning you have no.
You have no clue. Therefore, when you start, it doesn't really matter mm-hmm. where you start or how you start. You just have to start.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared to learn a lot.
Do you think that it's required to have university background just to start working in IT? So you need to graduate like computer science or something similar?
No, I don't think so. Because I know a lot of people who are really good IT people, programmers, system analysts, system engineers that do not have official technical background. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You might run into issues when you try to get, I don't know, visas for some countries or something like that. That if you have, say, a social studies degree, and you want to get a visa to, I don't know, United States or whatever, right? And you say, okay, I'm gonna work in programming or in IT, and they will say, but you have a social studies degree. That does not work together. How are you going to prove that you know what you're talking about?
Or do you have any certificates?
Or do you have any certificates? Exactly. So from this perspective, I would say that getting a degree is very, very good. For me, it potentially opened a lot of doors that I would have to work for much harder otherwise.
And what about certificates then?
So, personally, I don't do certificates. It's not because I wouldn't want to or I think they're bad or anything, because they're not. They can be very useful. I just don't have the need for it.
So it depends. Yeah,
it depends on what you want.
It's what you want. Yeah.
It is. I mean, if you go for an interview to a company that you can see that they like certificates, go do them. It's fine. You will learn new stuff. That's always great. But I don't do certificates mostly because I haven't had the need to do them yet. Yeah.
So as you mentioned, we know that you are speaking a lot, not only in Europe market, but also across the pond.
Yeah.
And how are you preparing yourself for a speech?
For a session?
Yeah.
So I don't actually do a lot of preparation because I've been speaking for more than 10 years now, so I know my timings by head. I don't have to go in front of the mirror and practice. So I know I write the slides, and it doesn't matter what I write on the slide, time-wise, right? It doesn't matter because even if I write just 2 words about the subject, I can still extend that to 10 minutes if I have to. And if I don't have the time, I can just compress it into 1 minute. So I know usually where I am time-wise. As for content, I always try to over-prepare. Because if, for example, I would now give a session on, say, high availability. I don't know much about high availability because I've never really did a deep dive into HA before. If I had a session about that, I would do a complete deep dive into that and learn every single thing I can, because you can never be over prepared, right? You want to answer as much questions that people give you as possible, but never be afraid to say I don't know.
Yeah.
Because nobody expects you to know everything, right? Somebody expects you to know everything. It's illusion.
Sometimes people expect, if you are, especially if you are MVP.
Well, yeah, they can expect, but that's not realistic, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't do much preparation.
How do you start with the presentation? You start with the blank sheet of paper and pencil, and then you are just drawing all of the items that you would like to discuss, or you're starting with PowerPoint or some other?
So the way I do, if I were to build a completely new session, first I decide what I want to talk about, of course. I write the title. Then I write the abstract, because the abstract gives you clarity on what you want to say, what you want to have the session about. And then I open PowerPoint and put about 10 key points, 1 per slide. Right? So I have 10 slides, for example, and put 10 key points in each slide, which I think are the most important for that session. Right? And then I expand on each key point on 1 slide, but I don't overdo the slides, right? And then when I do that, I look at the session, I take a break of about a week, and then probably completely rewrite it. But why? Because it takes about a week to put all of the pieces that I put in PowerPoint already, to put them together in my mind and see, okay, the flow is maybe not that good here, it can change, etc., etc. And then I give the session, and then I see 100,000 different things that I can change, and then I change it again. So every session is different, and every presentation is basically a work in progress.
Do you have any, let's say, freeze code just before the presentation, or you are doing freeze code so that you are not changing anything in the presentation before the presentation, or you are making the changes like 2 minutes before? Oh, I just need to change the slide and then.
No, I have a rule that I don't change anything in my slides at least 3 days before the presentation.
Okay.
I do a test run about 2 days before the session. I do a test run of all the demos and slides and everything. And if I find something that I've made wrong or anything like that, I fix that. But generally, as for big changes, I don't do that. And then I do another test run of demos about a few hours before the session.
Yeah, because in Azure it's changing every day. Something can't
That's
change.
that's true. Luckily, I don't do much Azure demos. So, well, I try to do as little as possible because of that reason, right?
How about work-life balance?
Work-life balance. As you get older, that changes, right? So, but I was when I was 25, I think. I said I will not overwork myself because I've done a lot of work before I was 25, and I said simply no. Now I have a very strict differentiation between work and life. I do 8 hours at work, and then when I go home, I put work on hold, and I deal with my pet projects like the SSMS tool spec or family or whatever. And basically, I think family has priority always. But it's easy for me to say, as I'm not a consultant or I'm not self-employed, I'm an employee in a company. So it's probably easier for me to say that than for somebody who's a consultant and has to take care of their own cash flow.
Sure.
So yeah.
What is the personal achievement that you are most proud of?
Personal achievement? So when it comes to the technical side of things, it's definitely sticking with the tool spec for so long. It's been 12 years now. As for personal, I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff. I'm proud of all of them. It's
Now everyone knows that we are not sending the question in advance.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Our guests are not prepared.
These questions, like, what, personal achievement? What the hell?
Yeah, it's one of the hardest questions I know.
The hardest question, the personal achievement. Yeah.
Which part of your life or of your work is the hardest?
Is the hardest? That's a really good question. Very hard to answer. I would say the hardest part of life and work is getting well and along with other people. Because we are not all people persons, right? So when you work with people, you get a lot of different personalities and everything, and nicely navigating those borders, it can be quite hard. And same in personal life. So I think that's the hardest part in everybody's life, getting along with other people.
That's basically true. The
Yeah.
communication.
The communication thing, yeah. I think that's the hardest part. Everything else is just a matter of doing it, right? I mean, if you don't want to do something, you won't do it.
That's right.
So.
How do you think, what is the future of on-premises servers?
I think it has a future. I'm not worried about them at all because there will always be customers that, for one reason or another, won't be able to go into cloud. And the cloud is not a magic solution for everything, right? So I think they will stay here for quite a while.
How do you think, how we can help customers or companies to migrate to the newer version of SQL Server? Either on-premise or maybe to the cloud.
You have to show them the business value for it. That's simply it. IT is a cost center. It's not a profit center. So you have to have the skills to turn it into a profit center somehow, or lessen the cost of it. Now that's a business value, right? And if you can show that, then you're done. Most people in management positions think of IT as a cost center. So how do you position yourself as a profit center? You have to position yourself as a problem solver for the profit centers in the company. Now, what are the profit centers in your company? That's up to you to decide. I don't know who the profit centers are in your company. Either it's production or marketing or sales or, and then you talk to those people and solve their problems. That's pretty much it. And if you can show a company that their profits will go up because of moving to a newer version of something, then you should be able to sell that.
Yeah. So you already know what is the main reason why the companies are not migrating to the newer version. Yeah.
They don't see the reason for it. I mean, the place where I work, we still have one 2000 server.
Oh, really?
Because there's no actual need to change it. Sure, it isn't open to anywhere outside. It has one table that is used by 5 different applications, but that server is enough to run that table. It's not a high speed table, right? So there is no need to like buy another license for that server, which is.
But it's not supported. You know, what if something happened for this database, or maybe I don't know, if basically you cannot maintenance some application to I don't know. Might be some specific scenario.
The database would be just migrated to some other server. It's one of those things where if things work, don't break them, or don't fix them. Right? Well, don't break them, of course not. But if they work, don't try to fix them. So you have to be pragmatic about it as well. So yeah.
How do you think? How many customers are ready to migrate to Azure?
In what percentage-wise, or?
For example.
I have no idea.
It's changing, you know, a lot. And Azure is more popular year by year.
So I think a lot of small businesses could easily move to Azure because of all the infrastructure thing, and so they don't have to keep their own IT.
Easier for startups.
Smaller customers. So like, what is the term? Mom and pop place, or what is that term? So smaller business up to say 50 people. I think they are prime candidates for that. As how are you going to convince them to do that? Show them the profit in it.
What do you think about the current trend of migration to cloud? Is it going to be replacing fully SQL Server that is on premises, or it will be in the case that there will be fixed market will be divided into 2 separate silos that will remain the same, so like 80% in Azure and then 20% in premises, or it will be changing?
So right now the trend is definitely going up, right? The people are migrating to Azure. Now we'll see what happens in the future. If they are happy with the services they receive, sure, they will stay there. If not, they will move back to on-premises. But I think on-premises isn't going anywhere. In the end, it's going to be a mixture of some kind. And if you can build something that eases that distinction between on-premises and in the cloud, that bridges that gap, that will solve a lot of issues. There won't be either one or the other. There will be a mixture of both. What the percentages will be, I have no idea. That will totally depend on the success of cloud offerings. And I don't know, SLAs, whatever features.
Okay, the last question, I think, maybe.
Yeah, the last question is, how did you start working with SQL Server?
The history.
So when I was a student, I started working with, like as a student in programming in 1999. And at that time I worked with Microsoft's Visual C++ and Oracle. And after that, I swore I would never touch databases again. And I haven't. Fast forward to 2002, where I started working with .NET in a different company. And my boss at the time comes up and says, so we have to do this pivot thing. We have to change this data into grid form, etc., etc. And I don't remember what he was explaining at that time, but I was like, okay, fine. So I started programming the thing in C#, and I'm like, there has to be an easier way. So I'm looking, well, how do you even start searching for this? Because come on, this is 2002. Google was very non-existent at the time, right? I mean, they were there, but you know. So I found a website called SQLteam.com. It was forums, had a lot of articles, and I asked a question there, and they told me it's called transposing data or pivoting data or something like that. And I started, okay, that sounds promising. So I started looking into it, and I wrote my first SQL statement to do a pivot on that data, and I wrote it, I don't know, in 2 days, and it magically worked. And then I started asking and answering questions on forums on SQLteam.com. And then I started blogging, and then I started speaking, and then I started the tools pack. Well, I started the tools pack, then I started speaking. And now we're here. So that's how I started working in SQL.
Perfect. So 2002, you said?
2002.
16 years of experience.
16 years,
SQL Server.
Jesus. That's a lot of time.
Okay, at the end of our conversation, tell us where we can find you. I mean, in the internet, of course.
If you Google me, I will be 2 pages of Google. Seriously though. I have a blog at SQLteam.com, which has now been inactive for quite some time. You can visit me at ssmstoolspack.com. That's the page of my add-in. You can find me on Twitter, so Twitter at Mladen Prajdić. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not a lot of Facebook. You can mostly get me on Twitter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that conversation.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you for joining us, listening to this podcast, and time spent jointly. You can find this podcast on the website SQLplayer.net. Share this episode if you like it, and let us know if you want to hear a specific person from the SQL community, or maybe about an interesting topic of technology.